everybody, my name's Link, here to talk about both new and old anime you might not have heard of. If you're someone who has ever sunk into a deep enough rabbit hole in the Japanese fan art area, then there's a good chance you've seen this face before. Or maybe this one? Does this one ring a bell? Maybe him too? Heck, they've even been in Otakoi. If you are ever wondering who that character Haru was crying over Hana cosplaying, I kid you not. You know how Japan loves to have polls for everything? This guy constantly places top for any category that makes him the best husbando. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm assuming you read the title, so what exactly is Touken Ranbu? Touken Ranbu is a popular Josei Muke game. Josei Muke literally meaning aim for women, and is an umbrella term for several genres of game, all usually, but not all, featuring a lot of really hot anime boys. Touken Ranbu is a character stat racing game, where your role is as a Niwa, far into the future, who's tasked with summoning spirits of old swords from the warring eras of Japan. You're supposed to train them and make them stronger, so that you can send them back in time with their new human forms to fight against the History Retrograde Army, a group of seemingly organized monsters out to alter history. As far as I know, they haven't explored why they do this, but it's your job to make sure it doesn't happen. Yes, the sword they're carrying is their form when they were still blades. They carry their former bodies around and swing it at enemies, which is really concerning because if the blade breaks, so does their corporeal form. The other half of the gameplay is back at the Citadel, which is basically your home base. There, you can task your swords with doing various things like caring for horses and farming, and maybe even sparring to raise their stats, as well as repair your swords if they ever sustain damage in battle. And this is also where you can summon, or in this game it's called smithing, for new swords or blades to use. And usually their appearance is based around the legend of their wielders, or the sword's own reputation, or what kind of swords they are, or a combination of all three. For example, this guy is based on a tanto, meaning those small blades, almost the size of knives. Samurai have these hidden as a form of self-defense or maybe a last resort. Due to the size of the blade, he's depicted as a child. The tachis and uchigatana are the more common swords you see, likely the ones people think about when imagining a katana. So they're usually the young adult-looking ikemens. And a tachi, which basically means bigger tachi, and hence they're more muscular and stronger as well. Except fucking Hotaru Maru, who's also one of the most OP units in the game. If I wanted a sword to cleave through enemies, I'd want it to be a big hunk of a man, damn it! Given its popularity, it was no surprise the game wanted to cash in for an anime adaptation. What did surprise the fans though, was that it's not only getting one, but two, announced almost simultaneously, one made by Suchadoka Kobo, and the other by the well-renowned Ufotable. When excited, fans were apprehensive as to how an anime could capture everything they love about the game. Because after all, the game is massive, and with a lot of swords. And I mean a lot. All of them with fully fleshed out backstories and personalities, as well as relationships with other swords, and their own complicated feelings about their owners. Touken Ranbu Hanamaru came first, and there the fans saw the potential. Hanamaru was set up to be an episodic, almost like mini intro to a handful of characters. We see their starting days when they were first summoned into the Citadel, and see how they adjust to their new life of having a human body, delighting in human pleasures like snacks and wine. Their tone is light-hearted, taking a comedy slice-of-life approach in their days at the Citadel. There's barely a sense of danger in them, and the most serious they can oftentimes get is when they ruminate over their past owners. Some loving theirs dearly, and the others abhor them, and some pass around so much they can't even keep count. But that's not to say that they aren't capable of holding a tense and action-packed scene. They just choose not to as much, and would rather focus on their colorful cast's antics. And additionally, this one received a second season called Zaku Touken Ranbu Hanamaru. Next came Katsugeki Touken Ranbu. They made it clear from trailers and several announcements that they weren't connected to Hanamaru in any way, focusing more on a new and upcoming sword, eager to prove himself as he's assigned to be the squad leader for the new Unit 2. They instantly thrust you into their first mission, introducing their team members one by one as the series goes on. And with that setup, we can focus and simmer more on their growth both emotional and skill-wise as the coming-of-age warrior story that it is. From the color scheme alone, you can tell that they aren't out. Atmosphere almost entirely serious as they fumble their way around into learning the ropes into battling. The cast is indeed smaller than Hanamaru. They made up for it by intense and fluid fight scenes as the brand they've made for themselves. This one had one season and was supposed to have a movie, but stuff happened. And there were barely any new updates on it. If you had to compare it with gameplay talk, it's like Hanamaru was someone's gameplay as they just started and slowly but surely improved their roster and team. Meanwhile, Katsugeki was a seasoned player's account, already establishing their citadels and their sword boys, as well as a far superior first unit, but we happened to follow the more emotional one of the teams. Yes, without a doubt it's a historical anime. It just can't be anything else. But at least the anime doesn't expect you to know every single detail about the mission and the time frame of the era they're in. Will the series hold your hand as it gives you summarized versions of the events you're supposed to protect, or at least make their objective clear? And if you've watched my older video on another historical anime, then you already know my opinion on the genre. How they tend to be in a difficult position because they end up being predictable to anyone who knows even a vague timeline of Japan's history. But the Tokonama's premise of stopping the alteration of history, it already completely bypassed the problem. And if you do know your history, then they shouldn't use it against you by not having any of it where it should be. So, should you watch Tokonama, Hanamaru, and Katsugeki? I'll be rating the shows we cover here with these stars. 1 star is, I suffer for this anime so you don't have to. Something else is worth your time. 3 stars is, definitely give it a go. It's an enjoyable ride despite its flaws and or it could be covering certain issues you could be interested in. While 5 is this, add it to your anime bible. A show any anime fan should definitely be watching. This one's going to be a bit of a doozy to rate. And I have to explain that I base my ratings if one can pick the anime up even as a casual or maybe even a newbie anime fan. So while I genuinely love some shows, I can't guarantee it'd be everyone's cup of tea. So for Hanamaru, I'd give it a 2.5 stars. While I personally enjoyed and came to love a lot of the characters in the series as they slowly grow their not-so-little family, I'm aware that the concentration of a lot of boys in one place, just going about their daily life and chores as we get to know them, and their significance in history isn't the most exciting thing in the world for everyone. Well, I gave Katsugeki a 4. Unlike Hanamaru, Katsugeki actually has a plot that it's following, which has a means, a climax, and an end. Not to mention, it's more battle-oriented, with a sprinkle of UFO table magic dust in it, so it's easily more accessible to a wider audience just from having swords go swing. I'd suggest watching Katsugeki first, and if it interests you enough, and at one episode where they briefly show all the other swords catches your fancy enough, and want to know more about them, then jump into Hanamaru for a good time. And that's a wrap on this one. What's your preferred genre in anime? The upbeat, action-packed kind? Or the more mellow and relaxing, down-to-earth vibe? Tell me down in the comments below. And as always, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more niche anime recommendations you might not have heard of. Bye bye!